Close enough, 7:02.
I have to set up something else.
We're calling meeting to order for the Select Board for Jamaica for January the 23rd, 2017. On the agenda, it shows a bid opening for the new town garage at 6:30. That has been accomplished. And now we are going to call for any additions to the agenda. I have two. Does anyone else have any additions they would like to add to the agenda for tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 3. Approve the minutes of January 9th, 10th, and 12th Select Board meetings. These have all been circulated. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at them. Let's cover January 9th first. Anyone have any questions, updates, changes for the minutes from January 9th? Has everybody had a chance to review them?
I read
I
them.
make a motion that we accept the minutes of January 9th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll accept the minutes of January 9th as presented. Next will be the minutes of January 10th, this Select Board budget meeting.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes for the January 10th meeting.
Second. Here, I have a second. Do I hear any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll accept the minutes of January 10th, the budget meeting. Then we have the minutes for Tuesday, January 12th, which is another budget meeting.
I move we should accept the Tuesday, January 12th budget meetings.
Do you have a second?
Minutes.
Have a second. Hearing, any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll accept those minutes as well. Thank you very much. The next item, approve the timesheets. We will do that at the end of the session. Sign the select board orders. Again, we'll do that at the end of the session. And, excuse me, the first order, the next order is discuss the appointment to the planning commission. We've had a gentleman who wrote us a letter, a gentleman Christopher Robin, who submitted a letter, lives on Adams Road, submitted a letter of interest. I met with him and with Veda last week, and she's interested in having him as a member. He's worked with him a little bit before. I would like to put his name in nomination for the planning commission empty slot.
Is there anyone else?
Could you
He's the
tell
only
us,
person.
could you tell us a little bit about what you learned?
Well, I'll second that first.
Yeah.
Allow for discussion.
We have a second, have a first second. Okay, the discussion is,
I would like to hear a little bit about his reasons for going, yeah,
Sure.
background.
he is, he's retired in Navy officer. That's the start. I like that part. But he's been working in software, design with, it sounds like military applications, for quite some time. He's sort of semi-retired from that. He's worked on the, Act 46, is that the right one?
Yeah.
Act 46 Commission. You worked with him on that, is that correct? But he was, we talked about what the expected roles are, and he was very interested in being part of the team. So I was impressed.
Does he know anything about being a lister or?
No, this is
what
planning.
This is for the planning commission.
Oh, the planning commission.
Yep, he
Does he
does.
know anything about planning?
He's been here for, he told me, I can't remember exactly how long he's been in Jamaica. But his family has owned the property like 40 years. So they've been coming here for a very long time, and now that he's retired, it sounds like he's actually working computer software stuff like you are at home. But in any case, he seems to know the town, and he expects to be here long-term. This is his retirement home. Yep, and I mentioned he's a Navy officer.
Yes, you did. So we'd have all three.
We have the Army, Navy, and Air Force
represented.
covered. We need a Coast Guard. Would you put that down for a while? Okay, so do I have a second? We have discussion. All in favor of nominating Christopher Robbins to fill the slot on the Jamaica Planning Commission, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none? If you're watching, Christopher, thank you. And you're hired. Okay. Number 7. We have, excuse me, 2 overweight permits. One is from Kingsbury Company out of Waitsfield, Vermont, and the other one is Newport Sand and Gravel out of Newport, New Hampshire. Paperwork is appropriate for both of them. We have the insurance liability and a receipt for their check on both of them. So I would entertain a motion that we instruct the road commissioner to approve these with the usual stipulations.
I make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll make a motion to instruct the road commissioner to approve these with the usual stipulations.
You got it, all in favor?
Oh, we're streamlining tonight because of the impending storm. We're trying to move quickly. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All in favor wins. Okay. Thanks for reminding me of that. The next item of business is an update on the Wyndham Solid Waste, I forgot what the D stands for, District Solar Project. And I turn to our
Yeah.
leader.
Well, unfortunately, there's still a discrepancy in the contract between lawyers, so I'm going to ask you to table that again for one more session.
What seems to be the issue that's coming?
In this particular case, it's the remedies for breach of contract. And he's concerned that it includes, I forget what it's called. Basically, it allows you for damages like, that are not damage related. They're things like, your business reputation was hurt, things like that, things that are not damage related, but reputation or, so he wants to clarify that before he would give his approval or his recommendation. So,
Any other discussion on this?
there was a word for it, I
It's
can't remember
tabled.
the word.
Has it
I
tabled?
thought-
It's tabled.
Do you need a second on a
Just
table?
table,
But I
You don't, do you?
I don't think so.
think we have to decide the table. We haven't finished the discussion just yet. I have another thought. And I read the letters and the sequence of emails from the lawyer, and my concern is that this project, every time we turn around, there's another little glitch someplace. And that the glitches keep turning up. And some of the glitches are things that are just sloppily read or sloppily produced. And I've made not really the joke, that if I had read these problems in an email, I would immediately dump it as spam because of the mistakes where they've used the wrong names for the company or the customer, little tiny things. And, as was pointed out to me, we've spent enough on lawyers that we could possibly earn back in a year. My suggestion to the board is just admit defeat and decide not to pursue it. That would be my suggestion. That's why we need to have the discussion with the board, or at least a vote. Because he's got a good point. I think I have a good point.
Isn't there a number of towns that have signed on?
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
There actually is 120% of the project has been signed on, which means that some of the people who are signed on are not going to be able to get onto the project. I'd be happy to talk about it, but it would be an executive session. It's a contractual issue.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. Sorry about that. But be aware that there's at least another opinion on how this should manage. And he's got really good points.
I'd like to take that up next meeting.
We can move it to the next meeting.
So
What's the
it's a
timeline? Because the
meeting.
timeline's moved considerably.
We've been given a 30-day extension from the 12th, so we
The
have till
12th.
February 12th.
Okay, so then you want to, do we need to vote on tabling things? We can decide that. Yes, we're going to vote. All in favor of tabling this discussion to next select board meeting?
Do we have to go through the second and everything?
Yeah, just to get out, make it.
What date did you say? What date?
We have till about the 12th.
What's the
So
next
meeting
meeting?
is the 13th, so you'll have,
I'm not worried about that. It
Okay.
was just a month from the last meeting. so
okay.
A month is 30 days,
30 days,
31 days, 32 days.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you have, a motion on the table?
We motion tabled it.
Did you give me a second?
And I'll
Not
second,
yet.
I'll second it.
All in favor of tabling this to the next meeting?
I-
Hold it, Lou wanted to table it.
Yeah, who made the motion? Didn't Lynn make the motion technically?
Yeah, he made-
That's-
oh,
Oh, I thought you
Yes.
made the motion.
You said it first, and
All right,
then.
then I guess I'll move that we table.
Okay, yeah.
Second.
Now we have a second. Thank you for catching that. All in favor, say aye.
All
I,
right.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this will be tabled until our next select board, next regular scheduled select board.
That's the 13th of February.
13th February? Okay. The next item is the monthly listers report. And we have I have a lister who's joined us. Miss Lister, would you introduce yourself to the camera?
Yes, my name is Barbara Ferguson. I'm the lister here in Jamaica.
I passed out the listers report. You're on, ma'am.
The reappraisal is ongoing. The inspections, the field inspections will resume again in the spring. Bill is doing the maintenance and cleaning up the database, and it's more background computer work that he's doing now. They have also agreed to assist the listers in the assessments that will be due this spring, similarly to what they did last year. So that is something that will be taken advantage of, as it just makes sense for them to do it, and the fact that we're still in search of to fill the 2 other positions. The statewide mapping program is ongoing, and I just received a notice today that they are sending out the RFPs. So that will continue throughout the spring, and I believe they expect to actually start working in late May on that program. So that's good news for us. Other business, we presented you with the budget, and I don't know what the status of that is. We presented the budget to the select board.
I believe that was included in the
It's in
budget.
our budget.
yeah, we have.
It's in
It's in our budget.
because I didn't know what the process was for.
Right, no, it's already, we did the
Okay.
budgeting.
Cool. Then the vacancies, we're still searching for to fill the 2 positions. It's been put on the website. It's been listed on the Facebook page, and I guess there are other listings around town. And I'm gonna put some this week, I'll put some in the newspapers. There's been a few people have been interested in it, but there's a gap between interest and presenting a letter. The letters probably, it would be better if they came through me, because it is a lister position or through the lister department, and I'm glad to forward them on to you. But I don't, I'm out of the loop if they just go to you and you appoint someone. I don't think that's the correct way to do it. The other thing we're working on is doing the town report, a report for the town report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about the report? I have a copy for you, by the way, Dan.
I've seen it, I know.
Oh, yeah. Just dawned on me I had a copy for you.
It's okay.
This actually leads us into number 10. As Barb noted, and we've all been talking about for some time, we're short listers. It's my understanding that the state law requires 3.
Yes.
We can do business with 2 as long as there's 2/3 of the 3. We don't have 3.
Right.
We have only 1. The options we've been discussing some of the options are going to require them be warned for the town meeting in March. And the 3 options that we seem to be talking about the most are, the first option would be, as we are doing, soliciting listers. Trying to get listers who must be members of the Jamaica community, residents of Jamaica, and interested in the proceedings. The other possibility is to vote on town meeting to do away with the listers as such, because they're obviously an elected official. It's going to require a warning in town meeting to be able to move that forward, at which time we would then hire professionals. And that's got details to be worked out. And the third option is to do nothing, which I don't think that's a really good option.
I think we've been at this same state for a couple of years now. And I
It's
don't
been at
see-
least a year and a half.
It's been, yeah, and I don't see where it's going to change. I don't know how to make.
I mean, we had two up until, I forgot when Ralph resigned, but
Yeah.
it was in the
Just
summertime,
before, yeah, it's right,
Yeah.
spring, March.
something like that, I can't remember, so we've had two for a while anyway, but now we're just
Yeah.
down to one.
I think the situation has been building or deteriorating, depending on which end you look at it. And we just need to make a decision. We've got the town meeting coming up in March. We don't have any really good options. But,
Well, I think it's up to you have to put it up to a vote, and it's up to the taxpayers to see what they want to do.
I think that's our next move, is to put it on the warning, and explain it as such, and see what the town wants to do. Because we need to do something. It doesn't seem fair to be asking you to be the select person.
They can't run really.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just not working. Not that you're not working, but the system.
Well, I think, yeah, you have to develop an option. Are you going to hire, a person to do that, or appoint, like Dover has one of their lists. They eliminated the department and appointed one of the listers who was working there as their assessor.
Mhm. That's one of the
She
options.
said it works, yeah, she said that. I spoke with her today, she said that works really
One
well.
of the sub-options under getting two more listers is to get two more listers who are working decidedly part-time and not being tasked with the assessor job. That sort of thing requires some experience and expertise, but to be able to assist you with grievances, local knowledge, that sort of thing. That would be under the heading of we need two more people, but it's not the same full-time listers kind of thought.
Right, and that you would exclude them from doing the data entry and the computer work,
Exactly.
just as long as they could receive the proper training to hear the grievances and go through that process.
And I think that's a doable proposition
And
if
that's
we have,
very,
if we
yeah,
have people.
that would be easy to do.
Yeah.
I've got a question, Barbara. Besides the field work, going out and do the appraisal work that could be done, very efficiently by a professional, could you fill us in on what other kinds of things happen on a weekly or monthly basis?
You're constantly doing, it's data entry, you're reviewing the database and making any changes to it, making sure it's correct, it's the filing, it's keeping up with the state, any state requirements.
So what happens to it within the database?
Name changes, transfers are done, correcting, adding on, someone buys a shed or something like that, you're adding that on. You don't physically need to go out and do them.
Now, currently though, we changed our town records, our land records program to use the NEMRIC program, and doesn't that propagate the property transfers into the,
It does, but you still have to monitor them and maintain them. There was, you gave me a couple this week, and one was an easement or something and one was a title change which hadn't been done, you didn't think it needed to be done, that had to be done. So there's things you need to monitor that. And questions, the realtors call and ask questions, or there's other.
so to use the paradigm you were talking about, one possibility is to have one lister work on the weekly or monthly activities, and the other two listers not participate in that part of the project, but just participate in the grievance process, and other things like meetings.
And I think that's the reality of how it's actually been the last
Yeah.
several years anyways.
As a lister and an elected official, you have certain autonomy that we don't touch. Is it possible for you to accept 3 listers and then give job descriptions to 2 of them to meet what he's suggesting? Because you're going to be able.
The three would have to decide that is how they'd like it to function.
Okay, so as soon as they get
You
appointed,
know, yeah, right,
as soon as they're appointed, they're now voting members.
right, and it would be something you discuss amongst.
Yeah,
you.
gotcha.
You have to work together.
Right.
Yeah, clearly, yeah.
And I think that's a more realistic expectation of how it could function in this case. Then you'd still maintain the department.
And the autonomy of the department.
Correct, and it could change, 5 or 10 years from now, it might change where all 3 listers are on board and functioning, 8 or 10 hours a week doing that.
It's important to remind the audience that the appointments take place from the select board only until the town meeting in March, at which time the listers would be elected. So we would appoint them to fill that gap, which right now is about, 6 weeks? Something like that. At which time they would, if they choose to, stand for election. And at that point, when they become elected officials, they get the same year to whatever year.
One would be appointed for a year and the other one would be appointed for 2 years. Or election, they're elected for 2 years.
Yeah.
1 year and 2 years, a 3-year term.
Where are you on yours?
Next year,
So you have 1 year left on yours?
that's correct.
So therefore, anybody who would be elected either for a 2 or a 3 year term.
2 or 3 years.
Because
yes,
you would
yes.
have
Yeah,
the
I have
last
that.
part of that 3 year term.
Yeah.
So there'll be a 2 and a 3 year term to be.
For the elections, yeah.
That's correct.
Any other questions?
Why does it say listers 2 terms for 3 years on the warrant?
The warrant, I think, is written generically,
Oh, okay.
so that at this point, if I'm,
I should have updated it, it should be right.
says select person for, lister for a term of 3 years, lister to fill vacant 3-year term,
With two
which
years.
you've got 2 years left.
Yeah.
2 years.
So that would be 1, 3, and 1, 2, and then you're good for another year.
Right, I'm good for another year. The terms of 3, 1 3-year is open and 1 2 years.
Oh, it's implied by, it says ending in 2019.
Right.
That implies 2 years.
So it's a tough problem. There's really no easy answer. We're pretty confident that we make a presentation to the entire town of Jamaica in March, explaining this, and we'll do what the voters want us to do. Anything else?
I did give you the wording on what the warrant should look like.
I do have that in here somewhere. We haven't added.
Add that to the warrant.
The warning that we had to review, and I put approve, but we're gonna scratch the word approve, which is number 11 on the agenda. We weren't able to put it on the warning because we weren't too sure exactly what we were going to do with the listers. So I'll take those words and Pam and I can make a statement that'll meet muster about those options. Because it's kind of hard to put on the warrant, okay, vote on 3 options.
Can I say?
Sure.
Greg Jolly had a good idea, and I don't know if this is something you prepare for or something you figure out that day, but he was saying if this is on the warning, but people are elected before it gets to that. So if we elect 2 people for the lister positions during that period, do we just skip over this and say, or are
If
you
you-
still gonna discuss it?
If you elect 2 people, then it's
It's all
a
moot.
moot point.
And so you just
That's
say,
what
okay,
I-
never
Yeah, so we
mind,
just
or-
will, you're not pers-
Okay, and is that something we need to?
Well, we probably should put something on the warning, because if we don't have to.
You have to or you can't consider it.
Yeah, so we should, you and I can work on the wording
Yeah,
tomorrow,
okay.
make it work.
Yeah.
And then we have a meeting to do some to do some bidding next Monday. And so we will adopt this, or we'll review it and adopt it at our meeting next Monday. We'll add that in addition to the bid opening.
And that
This
was-
bid opening Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
To answer the question regarding the options, the only one you have to put on the warning is if you want to dissolve the listers and go with this full-time appraiser.
Exactly.
The other two can be discussed and you can adopt them, but they don't need to be on the warning. So you don't need to list all three options on the
Right.
warning. You just need to list that one because that's the only one that requires a special warning.
I think my question was more, what if people still wanna talk about it? Are we still going to, if we get 2 listers in the open positions and then it gets to that on the agenda and people still wanna discuss it and talk about it, are we going to allow that?
I think that's up to Greg and I
That would be
think
up to the moderator.
I think we can. Don't you think so? I mean, I think this is one of those tough little problems. I think that people ought to be able to express their opinion,
Yeah.
you know, even if we already have
I don't
listers.
think, right, and I don't think they understand, or I don't think a lot of people are aware of the options that they have too, which
so
is
it makes sense to discuss.
to present it and discuss it and let them know
Sure.
that there are, different ways they could,
So,
exchange.
and anyone who expresses an interest in becoming a lister between now and then will certainly be able to come in and talk about what we expect and what the options are.
I think a lot of them don't, a lot of people don't understand that it's, paid per hour position.
Good point.
And, and that makes, I think that's,
But the hours aren't that much either, so.
Well, it's not.
no, they're not a lot
yeah.
of
And
hours,
some
but
people are looking for full-time work, right?
How many hours per week?
about 8 or 10.
Uh-huh, okay.
Right.
And what is the amount per hour?
About $17, $18 an hour.
Mhm.
So it would be a nice little part-time job for someone who, wanting to do a few hours and understand.
You had a question? Oh,
Yeah.
identify yourself.
Yeah, Joel Blooming.
Thank you.
If this becomes an appointed, a hired position, who controls the listers?
It's not hired, it's appointed. And as soon as we appoint, they become listers, they're now officially, that is a very autonomous
Oh,
organization.
I think he's
No, I'm
asking
asking
if we
if the
eliminate.
town decides to hire rather than elect.
Oh, I see it. You're talking about if we do away
Private
with listers.
assessor.
They're gonna work, it works for the select board.
Marcus,
Yeah,
okay.
because there won't be a lister's office per se, so there
There would be a
a
contract basically between the listers and the.
Yeah, I understand the question. I was thinking,
Wouldn't that become a conflict of interest?
in what way?
There's 2 ways that it would be done. One, the select board could hire an employee, pay them the benefits and the insurance and all that other business. Or they would hire them or they're appointed as an assessor. And that, I believe, is different than hiring an employee.
In terms of who governs them? Right now, the way it is, they
Yes.
govern themselves.
That's correct.
That's correct, because we're elected officials.
Right. The other way, they would now be governed by the select board,
Correct.
which in my mind would be a conflict of interest.
That is one way to look at it, yes.
It's not a conflict of interest. Other towns are doing this.
That doesn't make it not a conflict
Well,
of interest. Maybe it's
it's
not.
been looked at by lawyers. I think what you're talking about are people who, especially with commercial properties, have to go out and look at these properties and appraise their value. The problem is that, number one, the average Joe, I know, I couldn't do it. And I don't think that anybody who would be, elected in this town would even have that kind of background. That's why we hire a company to do reappraisals for us, because they're professionals. And not only do they know what's going on within the town, they know what's going on within the state. So they would appraise a property in Jamaica similarly to the way they would appraise a property in Winhall or Wardsboro. So my feeling is that the appraisal is much more of a professional position than listers.
I don't have an objection to having professionals do it. I do have an objection to it not being an independent group.
Hence the reason why the listers would still be potentially, if there was enough of them, would still be in charge. If we couldn't get enough listers, then the question is the listers can't make decisions. They can't do grievances. Then it goes to the VCA. So if the
Board of Civil Authority.
Board of Civil Authority. So if you as a property owner have a grievance, Right now, you can go to the listers. If they don't handle your grievance, you go to the Board of Civil Authority.
But Lou, with
So
one
there are
lister
still-
now,
What?
with one lister, it can't be done.
Correct.
You have to have two.
And
I
that's,
think,
You have to
But
have
I'm
two
able
legally.
to I'm able to hire the assessor to hear the grievances with me.
I
And
think,
that would be responsible to you. That you would be self-governing in that respect.
Right, and when we would hear the grievances and make a joint decision on them.
Because you don't go out and assess properties.
I can, that's part of my duty or title as
Have you,
As a
you've
lister.
been so have you learned how to do that
I
and go out
can,
there?
yes, I can go out, and we have the program which calculates things for you, too, so you can do that yourself. But if you're talking about having a more scopy, worldly, assessment done, it does behoove you to hire a professional,
Right, so have you gone out and done some of the,
yes.
do that?
although you're asking them to do it this year for you.
Because it's getting
Yes,
reappraised.
because it behooves them to do it because they have to do them anyways.
so back to the position Joel's taking. Joel, I think the position of who's in charge of these sorts of things speaks to whether it's that elected group or this elected group. So whoever is in charge of these people are going to be elected representatives of the town. So there's a presumption that we're representing the whole town, whether it's the listers being elected or the select board being elected. It's the same presumption that we're going to do the best we can for the town and not be wrapped up in individual
But still,
prejudices.
there's a degree of independence between each organization. So there's two separate organizations elected by the people. One is the board, the select board, and
Sure.
one is the board of listers.
Right,
And that gives a certain amount of independence to each group.
yes.
And there is a
But if
better
we-
check and balance.
But if we no longer,
And there's a better check and balance.
if we no longer have a board of listers, there is no one left but us. So, yeah, it sounds all kinds of hypothetically interesting process, but absent more listers, it's going to fall back on the select board. We'd love it to go, we'd love to have listers running
There
it,
may be other choices to be examined.
but please submit them to me and we'll take a look at them. Please do. We'll take any suggestions. Thank you very much, Barb. Anything else anybody would like to add to this discussion? What we'll do is we'll put this together, Pam and I, and have the warning ready for the next select board meeting. The next item on the agenda is time for public concerns. We have a public. Are you concerned?
No, I'm concerned.
There we go. I have two quick things I want to do. We got a letter from the office of Peter Welch, Congressman Peter Welch from the House of Representatives, and I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but essentially what he is trying to do is he is trying to build a consensus with the House of Representatives to get some infrastructure monies. And he's asking the towns, quote, "I'm hoping you can help me build a case in the House of Representatives for investing in Vermont's infrastructure by identifying key infrastructure priorities in the Wyndham region." So those of us who were engaged pretty much all the time got some ideas. But I would put it to everybody else in Jamaica. If you can think of an infrastructure, a road, a bridge, something specific that you think might be a good idea, please send me an email. I have until Friday to put this list together. I'm sending it to Representative Welch through the Wyndham Regional Commissioner. Chris Campany sent me the letter and referred this. So what we're basically asking is, if you have some ideas, send me an email or a real mail, however you want to do it, but I think snail mail is not going to get here by Friday. And I will put that on the list. What we need to do is what needs to be repaired, the approximate cost, and the approximate time it will take to do it. And I share that with everybody for that.
Would this be only repairs or introduction of?
Anything that infrastructure-wise, he's looking to be able to get money from Congress for Vermont, and he needs to build up a case. He needs to say, look, they need, $500,000 to repair the Depot Street Bridge, for example.
Two separate issues, sewer and water.
I don't think that he's separating,
Well, okay, then sewer and water.
because it says including roads, bridges, water and wastewater facilities, broadband, or other public facilities. So the whole thing.
Water would increase the potential of business in this town, because so many businesses.
Send me an email, I'll pass it on to him. Just give me something in writing and I'll get it to these guys. He wants it by Friday noon. And we're closed Thursday, so let's try it by the end of Thursday. January 26th is
He
Friday.
wants the cost and everything?
What's that?
He wants the cost?
Yeah, he wants the approximate cost, which is a tough one, obviously. But
By Friday, so.
yeah, I got this letter over the weekend, so this is the first I've seen it myself.
Wow.
Okay, the next item I've added is we got a letter from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. This has to do with the membership meeting, and I put this to the crew here. They're looking for, there's a meeting gonna be in Montpelier when they have their town fair, and there's a delegate designation form. So if any of you are planning on going or would like to go as a delegate from Jamaica, let me know and we'll get this form filled out and we'll get it sent in. That would be a voting representative from our town to the,
Vermont Cities and
it's the Board of Directors, VLCT Board of Directors meeting that's taking place in Montpelier. And that's all I have.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. We stand adjourned at 7:40. Okay, use that clock. 7:38. Okay. Let's do the signatures and stuff.
You gonna get
I
out,
think the water.
be able to get out in the morning?
Sewage is.
We'll see what happens, I might be.
Sure,
late.
let's put it together and I'll submit it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It seems like it's a timing, you're still not sure.
Oh, they're saying,
Yeah,
Oh,
any
yeah.
idea what it costs? Neither do I.
Yeah, 'cause
The
Jamaica.
person in contact with Chrissy, that she might be able to give you some idea.
well, they're saying the morning commute
Oh,
for
well,
Southern
they would just
Vermont.
allow people.
Last thing I
to
read,
use
this
what
thing,
they
so I have to shut it off, is warning speed
Oh,
update.
just-
They're saying two shots asleep for London
We're
town.
gonna have no power.
And some wind.
I got a generator.
Stratton wind was looking pretty good when I left about.
Yeah, we're supposed to be especially gusty.
Up to 50.